Welcome back to the Wildboro podcast, and welcome, Ashlyn.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. We met last week in Benson at an Arizona Department of Environmental Quality meeting, which is for an air permit for a proposed aluminum plant in Benson. So what's going on here? If you can just give an overview of what's happening in Benson.
So Aluminum Dynamics, which is a subsidiary of Steel Dynamics, they're building an aluminum secondary smelter casting facility. So they'll take post-industrial and pre-industrial scrap, and then they'll melt it down and create, I don't know if it's pronounced ingos or ingots, but basically just like a big aluminum slab is what they're going to be producing. And the facility will be kind of working in conjunction with two other facilities. One of them is in Mexico, and then one of them is in, I think it's Missouri. No, it's in Mississippi.
Yeah, I think Mississippi.
Yeah, I always get them mixed up. And so I think that all of them need to be running for them all to be in production. I could be wrong on that though. But so they're putting this facility kind of in like the heart of our town. It's going to be a 1/10 of a mile from the San Pedro River, right across the street from a nursing home. Like somebody had the yards that they had like figured out how many yards, but it's literally across the street. And then it's a mile from all of Benson's a rural community, so there's only one public school there, and it's all of them are within a mile of they are a mile from the facility. So we're fighting it, and it's going to be a pretty major polluter. So since Benson is a rural community, there's a lot of us that have come forward to protect our rural way of life and try to make it not happen.
Yeah, and this has really gotten the attention of a lot of people in your town, and you and your mom have been some of the main organizers of the effort to stop this from happening. So I kind of want to get your first-person perspective on this, and maybe tell us a little bit more about Benson and your history with Benson, and then how you got involved with this issue.
Yeah, so I grew up in southern Arizona. I lived in Tucson my whole life, and I moved away, and I just got back to Benson last September. And so my folks have been in Benson, though. They've been there for, I want to say it's like 8 or 9 years. My mom's dream was always to have organic food available. That was something even in Tucson that she really fought really hard for. Like we'd go to like all the different stores to see like what deals we could get on organic food, just because she wanted to give us like the best sustenance that we could get, and it's hard and it's expensive to do that for your kids. And so it was always something that was like super ingrained in me, that it's like important to have these options for food, and important to be knowledgeable about what's in your food and how it's produced. And so I moved to Kansas actually in 2017 or 2018, and my folks moved to Benson that same year. They finally found like the spot that they had wanted. My mom had actually had that house that they are in now on a vision board for, I want to say, like 5 years.
Wow.
Like she's like, I want this house. It was really expensive. And then, an opportunity opened up for them to be able to do that. And so in a way, even though like I don't have like a lot of history with Benson in the capacity of like being like living there myself for, a long time, and like community interaction, it feels like I'm like, that's my mom, that's my mom's dream. So, and my family's dream. And so that's what I'm, I guess, defending. Like that's what my stakes are in it.
Yeah.
But I've really come to love Benson, even though I've only been there for a short period of time as well.
And you were telling me you basically have a farm out there with a lot of animals. Can you just tell us kind of what your setup is?
Yeah, so we actually just got rid of 40 sheep. I think we had 140 when we started to get rid of some. We're getting that we don't utilize them to their full capacity, so we're kind of sizing our herd down. We'll keep a little bit. I think we're going to end up with retaining like 35 or 40. So we have the sheep, and that's like our, I guess, largest amount of animals. And then we have 13 cows. We have a llama, and she's she's just a friend. Like, she doesn't do anything, but her name's Thumbelina. We have 2 pigs that are also just friends. A lot of chickens and turkeys. I have no idea the number on that. We do heritage birds for Thanksgiving. So
Cool.
I don't know if we're going to be doing it this year. This year's been kind of a nightmare, but and then lots of chickens, and we primarily do eggs, although we've done meat birds in the past.
Yeah, and obviously you need clean air and soil to support the animals. And you said you have you're growing food, vegetables as well.
Yes. During a normal year, we do grow food, and we eat, everything that we grow. And it makes it awesome for, grocery store trips. I'm only having to get like pasta and stuff and not, any of that stuff. This year, our garden's been kind of a bust. It's been kind of a weird year with this like ADI stuff. And then also some health issues that I had like kind of right in the beginning of our planting season. So.
And tell us a little bit about Benson and the area and maybe the San Pedro River. That's kind of an important part of all this. And maybe just add a little color, because a lot of people listening have probably never heard of Benson or been to it.
So the San Pedro kind of runs along the side of and then curves around towards like the bottom and sort of through the middle of Benson. And this facility is going to be going in 1/10 of a mile from the river. And the part of the river that they're putting the facility by is not protected. So there's the San Pedro Riparian Conservation Area. Our section of the river, we're pretty close to it. I believe it starts in St. David or just outside of St. David, which is like a 20-minute-ish, 15-minute drive from Benson. So I don't know if they count the endangered animals in our part of the river or not, but there's the southwestern willow flycatcher, the northern Mexican garter snake, and the yellow-billed cuckoo. Those are just like the main ones that I know about that are endangered or threatened under the Federal Endangered Species Act.
Got it. And Benson, I don't know if it would be considered Metro Tucson. It's about 45 minutes east of Tucson, right?
I think that, I don't know. That's a good question.
Kind of more of a rural town.
Yeah.
So it sounds like your mom kind of found her ideal place and was, happily gardening away. Now, how did this issue come into your lives?
So I found out about it on a Facebook group. I was actually on the way. So I moved in September or August. And my fiance had stayed in Kansas for a little bit to work. And so he came to visit in February, and then ended up his visit got extended because I was in the hospital. And so it was kind of just a nightmare of like trying to get all of our stuff situated, because his plan was to move out to Benson as well. And so, we're in June, finally going back to Kansas to go get all of his things and pack up his house and stuff. And literally, like, on the way out the door, or I think is the day that we found out about it, was on Facebook. And so I'm like, oh my God, like, we're trying to get settled here and get our life set up here. And then finding out about this plant. And we live actually on the same farm that my parents own. We have our own separate little area, which is nice. So yeah, just kind of a shock to be like, okay, I'm trying to put my roots down, and then here comes this plant.
Yeah. And obviously your mom was very concerned about it, and you became concerned. What really got your attention about this proposal?
The water was a really big thing for me, as well as like the air pollution. So I guess I would say I'm an environmentalist now. And I've always cared about the earth and stuff, but it's never been something I've put as much thought into. It's just been like, yeah, we should protect the earth. And, from an agricultural perspective, like learning about like regenerative farming and that kind of thing was always important to me, but never in the sense of like, I'm going to go stand in front of a bulldozer. I think I would probably do that now after dealing with this stuff. Yeah. And so primarily the health risks were kind of what got on my radar, was like, oh my God, like they're going to be putting stuff into the air that's going to be terrible for, our human and our livestock systems to be able to handle. So that was like the first thing that I really started diving into. and kind of deconstructing their Title V permit and like everything that is going to be emitting, which to me, like, you know, as someone who hasn't done this before, it's like, how is this legal? Like,
Yeah.
like looking at these things, it's like, oh yeah, they're just requesting basically permission to put all of this in the air, and it's
Yeah.
just insane to me. So
Right. And I was watching some of your videos. You have some popular videos on TikTok, and I just see you breaking down like the different particulate matter and what PM 2.5 means and all this stuff. And
yeah,
do you have did you have a background in any of this before this issue came up? Or
not
yeah.
at all. No.
Yeah. So I guess let's just get into the details on this case. Maybe just the timeline of this plant is a good place to start.
So, from what I understand, in November, they had two meetings pretty close together. One was supposed to be a public, and I could be fudging this, but one of them was supposed to be like an informational meeting, I think. I could be wrong on that. And then the other one was a public hearing for the conditional use permit. And so I think that's the first time that it got on, you know, Benson, or the public part of Benson's radar. They did send out.
They I don't know if we mentioned this. The company is Aluminum
Oh
Dynamics.
yeah, Aluminum
Yep.
Dynamics. Yeah, yeah, subsidiary of Steel Dynamics. So they had to get this conditional use permit for a height variance. And so I think that was kind of the first time that anybody had heard about it. However, like the public was very poor, I would say poorly informed during the process of granting that permit, because the majority of us didn't find out about it until June, like mid-June.
I read that they sent out mailers to about 70 people, and the meeting so the height variance, that's basically an exception to the normal zoning codes.
Okay, so it's interesting because Benson has, you know, this what is it called, their city plan basically. So
Okay.
they want to protect how the desert looks, and so this is kind of like a side note, but the Maverick on the exit, the 302, so their sign, I don't remember the height that it is currently. So they actually asked for a conditional use permit from the Planning and Zoning Commission. They requested this just to raise the sign 14 feet in the air.
Wow.
And the Planning and Zoning Commission was like, I don't know, we'll send it to council. Council denied it. So they would not allow them to have a 14-foot higher sign for a gas station. And this this Aluminum Dynamics, they come in and they're like, hey, can we put 88-foot towers in? We need a permit for that since it's against the city plan. I think it's like 30 something foot is like what the code is, or something in that area. And they were just like, yeah, sure, we'll just grant that. They didn't take it to council or anything.
Right, and it's legally speaking, the property is already zoned for heavy industrial, correct? So they didn't have to get any special permission to put an aluminum a secondary smelter there.
Yeah, exactly.
The only thing they needed permission was to put in their stacks, which will be emitting the pollutants.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they if you look through the minutes for that meeting for the Planning and Zoning Commission, they ask, you know, they did their presentation on like what the company is, and obviously they're sugarcoating it. It's like it's a sales pitch, you know, and so they ask what's going to be admitted from the stacks. That was like the one question like that that Planning and Zoning really asked about, you know, that seemed like they cared. But they were, I guess, content with the answer, which was from Glenn Pushis, and he said warm air but clean air. So,
just this morning, I was looking at the conditional use, and the city council did list like pros and cons, and they didn't list air pollution as a con. It was kind of just like it might look bad.
Yeah,
or something.
It might be kind of ugly.
So that'll happen in November very quietly. I mean, you didn't know anything, and I didn't find any news articles about this until way later, and I think that my sense is just this would fundamentally change Benson, Arizona.
Absolutely.
So for this to be a footnote on some meeting that 20 people were at is not doing it justice to what this actually would be.
Yeah, I think most of those people were probably people that had just moved here for the company, or I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, because they said that I think at this meeting where there was like 20 people,
Yeah.
6 people spoke and 5 were in favor.
Yes, yeah.
So,
One of them was Dan Arnold, and it seems like he stands to benefit from what I understand. He's the person that he actually brought them to Gila Bend, and he brought them here, and he admitted that in a meeting. So
maybe it's a good time to bring up Gila Bend because this is not the first town that Aluminum Dynamics has tried to build this plant in. Can you tell us what happened there?
Yes, they had. So in Gila Bend, they had, I think, purchased the parcel, and then they were going to council to rezone it. I don't think they needed the conditional, like the height variance thing. I'm not sure. So I think the only thing they had was the rezoning issue. So it had to go before council. From my understanding, maybe that was planning and zoning. I'm not sure, but their council members actually like looked into it, and at least one was pretty outspoken against it. But they had broken ground already. They had already started to build their facility, and I'm not sure if they were putting wells in yet or if they were starting to put wells in. But yeah, I guess they had started building. So now they're suing Gila Bend for what they lost and what they materials that they had used there. So now they're in litigation for $50 million with the city of Gila Bend.
Yeah, and that can really be a big deal for Gila Bend. It's a smaller town than Benson. I think there's about 1,000 people that live there versus Benson is about 5,000. And Gila Bend is a little bit southwest of Phoenix.
Okay.
I think. So when and how did you find out about this? And this really seemed to become like a local uproar in June.
Yeah. I should have gone back and seen like what post it was that like tipped me off, and then of course that was just like a Googling frenzy of looking into it. Somebody had posted in just one of the like local chit chat pages and mentioned something about Aluminum Dynamics, and I can't remember who it was, or thank you to that person for seriously like helping us get ahead of this. But yeah, that was in June, and then I was in Kansas for a few weeks. So at that time, I was just working on like infographics. I've been off work from doing hair for a while, and so I kind of have been trying to do some art and stuff, and that's just kind of I'm not I don't know, not a like technical person. Like I'm just fly by the seat of my pants, kind of like do whatever I want kind of thing. And so, I started out just like, yeah, I'll make some art, I'll make some graphics, and like started to distribute some infographics and made some stickers and that kind of thing, just to kind of get the word out. And that was kind of where I thought my involvement would, stay. I didn't really know it was going to turn into this. I guess like probably none of us really knew what we were getting into at the beginning. You think you could just be like, hey, we don't want this here. And then council will be like, okay, we'll take a vote. Like that's kind of, I guess, was my mindset at the beginning, but it's definitely turned into a lot more involvement. So in July, I formed a nonprofit. Technically, I think my mom formed it. I did all the like paperwork and stuff, but my mom's the like owner of the corporation. So we're kind of dedicating like our mission to fighting environmental injustice in rural communities. And so it's kind of like evolved into this thing where I'm like speaking out more. And I did notice on Facebook, and this is not like a dig at anyone, but there's a lot of people in my generation are not on Facebook. And so I felt like, TikTok is unfortunately it's just like the way to go right now. And so that's how a lot of people my age get their information, and Instagram as well. And there wasn't like a group there. Like my mom had created the group in June, I think like right away, on Facebook, and it grew pretty quickly. And so I figured, I'll handle all of the like Gen Z kind of stuff and do TikTok and Instagram as well.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons I was interested in having you on here, because at the meeting last week, it was mostly older people, which again is not bad, but we kind of need everyone involved to fight this thing. Okay, so getting back into the actual details of this plant, can you talk about what exactly is this thing going to emit into the air? If it's
yeah,
in Benson?
For sure. I actually have my cheat sheet because all of the numbers are hard to remember. So there's PM10 and PM2.5, and so that's particulate matter. And so that's kind of a lot of these things that they have listed in their permit are sort of like all encompassing. Like HAPs is also something that's all encompassing, but it includes stuff like dioxin, and dioxin is like so terrible for you. We don't know the exact. Well, I'm sure we could find out the exact number. I'm not a mathematician, so that part's kind of hard because they kind of buried a lot of the like super toxic stuff in equation form in the permit, which, by the way, is, in my opinion, illegal because the I forget what it is. It's like an ARS statute that says that air permits must be practically enforceable, and since this one is allegedly going to be enforced by public monitoring, how are we supposed to monitor what we don't know? So that was my side note. It's illegal. But so there's PM10, which is going to be 61.7 tons per year. PM2.5, 52.2 tons per year. And both of these things, they will get deep into the lungs and your bloodstream. It's linked to asthma, cardiovascular issues, and breathing issues. Lung cancer as well. Then there's nitrogen oxides, 93.7 tons. This reacts in sunlight to form smog. So it aggravates asthma, it lowers your lung function, and it increases the risk of respiratory disease. Carbon monoxide, 80.3 tons. Volatile organic compounds, 93.3 tons. So that's going to cause, more smog. It can cause, no, that's not the eye one. Eye, nose, and throat irritation, liver and kidney damage, and nausea. Sulfur dioxide, it's also gonna, cause respiratory issues. And so that one's one that it can react with. And there's 0.3 tons, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a lot. It can go into the environment, into the air, and it actually sits in the atmosphere, and it can it reacts with the other compounds and turns into acid rain. So then there's 0.00305 tons of lead, which doesn't sound like a lot again, but we have to remember that lead is not safe, like in any level for the human body, like at all. Hydrogen chloride, there's 92.3 tons. This is one that's interesting because I knew it it kind of encompasses like all of the other like general like respiratory health issues for any like air pollutant. But then we had a former, what did she say, coroner speak at the ADEC meeting, and she said that if in high amounts or long-term exposure, it can cause like your eyes to bleed. It's one that it settles into like the mucous membranes of the body, and it degrades those like soft tissues, and so like lungs and throat and eyes and stuff like that. And so that one's, I guess, particularly gruesome from what it seems like. And there's I don't know if I said, but there's 92.3 tons of that being emitted into the air.
That sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
90 tons.
Yeah. No, it is a lot. That's tons. All of it is tons per year.
Yeah. And this is what's going to be coming out of these 88-foot high smokestacks, I guess. Mm-hmm. The one that got my attention was this PM 2.5, which I didn't know what that really meant. The numbers indicate how many micrometers, I guess, it is. So a human hair, I read, is like 50 to 60 micrometers in diameter. So something that's 2.5 micrometers,
super small, is
really small, and it's enough to get really deep into your lungs.
Yeah, super inhalable as well.
Yeah, and that would be aluminum dust, correct?
Yeah, so the PM10 and PM2.5, I think it's hard to say, but I think that's going to be primarily aluminum dust. I don't know what else, because it's hard because they don't just come out and say like, oh, this is aluminum dust. You have to like dig through the permit and like try and piece all of it together. But because it could change, in a different facility, it wouldn't be aluminum dust, but it would still be considered PM 2.5.
Yeah, and I mean, this dust is not going anywhere because aluminum is an element, so that's never going to break down.
Yeah.
And it's really concerning. Now, they do have to get a permit because of this, correct? So
yeah.
Tell us about that process and what's happening there.
So they had to apply for an Arizona Department of Environmental Quality permit. I think it's a Title V. I've also heard people call it a Title I permit, so now I'm kind of confused on that, but it says Title V on the application. And so they had to kind of go through this process where they have like a meeting to explain everything. And then, I think like 30 days later, then they do the formal hearing. And there's a public comment period. The public comment period, I believe, began on July 16th. And so that's kind of has been our opportunity to, I guess, petition the ADEQ to care about us, and say like, hey, please, like, this is what's going to happen. Like, what's right across the street from the nursing home. Please consider not granting the permit. But from my understanding, ADEQ did tell us at the informal meeting that they've not denied a permit of this nature before. So, but actually yesterday, the liaison for ADEQ did reach out and let us know that they have extended the public comment period. And he also let us know that they have after the meeting, the formal hearing that we just had, they had over 700 comments to review, and they have to review every single one before they can even make their decision. They have to respond to all of them. So now the comment period's open. So
yeah. So everyone listening, at the end, we'll tell you how to get involved and write your comment if you want to ADEQ. So that is one thing that could potentially stop this from happening if ADEQ denies this, which I kind of want to get into ADEQ with you. But first, people brought this up a lot at the meeting last week, was the geography, I guess, of Benson. It sits in a valley, so it's not like these pollutants are going to disperse. There's a good chance they're going to settle right there in Benson.
Yeah, so what doesn't go into like our cloud systems and stuff, it's going to sit right on top of Benson. And from what I understand, even though PM 2.5 and PM 10, they're like super tiny, that aluminum dust is very heavy, like in terms of like sitting in there, so it settles. So I did hear one gal, she mentioned that when it's cool outside, it's going to just settle like right along, right above our heads, and that's going to cause issues and basically create smog. But then, when it does fall, then, we have the San Pedro right there. I don't think that they really took into consideration the fact that the San Pedro does run, even though it's dry right now. Well, I don't know. It rained last night, so it might not be, but that can bring the aluminum particulate, all over wherever that river feeds into, and it's very flammable. It's very toxic. And then, I was going to go on a little side quest there.
Yeah, I wanted to get into these other risks with the plant. There is the potential for explosions or fires, and I don't know what you were going to talk about. But.
Well, I was going to talk about the cooling tower system. There will be lime dross, and so that's basically the contaminated materials like that they're taking out from the wastewater that they're going to discharge onto the golf course. They won't be discharging the dross, but they will have like a storage area for that dross, according to the permit. And so that lime dross, I looked into it, and it kills wildlife. Like it decimates ecosystems. So that's one thing too, is like man-made structures fail, and we're putting our trust in a company that has maybe they don't have a bad track record yet because they barely existed. Steel Dynamics has a horrible track record.
Yeah. Can you tell us about their track record?
Yeah, so they have $11.6 million in fines. Most of them are for pollution. Water pollution is a big one. I actually have the numbers written down. So they have a $3.4 million fine for water pollution, 475,000 Clean Air Act violations, $11.6 million in penalties total, spanning across 93 violations. They also have 460,000 OSHA violations, and then a $4.6 million price fixing lawsuit. So I don't know if those are really people that we should be trusting with such a fragile ecosystem, in our desert with our water. The lime dross thing is something that really scares me, and I wish we had more information on it, because that the potential of that lime dross getting into our ecosystem, I think, could be absolutely detrimental.
Mm-hmm. And the San Pedro, we talked about it a little. It's a really unique wildlife corridor where a lot of bird species migrate. So that could be really devastating to that. I also, talking about their violations, they have already violated one of their air. They have an air quality permit. It was in Indiana, and the EPA found that they had violated that, I think, on a 3-year basis, and they were fined and
Yeah.
for that. So
Yeah, that seems to be kind of the role of the EPA. Just kind of steps in when whatever. I know they don't have like ADEC in Indiana, but whatever their version, you know, probably is kind of ran the same. So they probably just didn't look into things that they should have looked into, and then the EPA has to be like, okay, I guess we're gonna fine you. But I think a lot of the times it's after the damage is done, and so that's like something like I don't want to allow it to be done in the first place.
Right. I think we have enough history at this point
to
say that this is a bad idea. At least that's my opinion on this.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different directions to go with this. I did want to say the permit says they're going to emit 52 tons of the particulate matter, and the allowable limit is 100 tons.
Yeah.
So it looks like they're technically under the limit for each of those.
Yeah, I do believe that the PM 2.5 is included in the PM 10 because PM 10, it's like like a square and a rectangle. Like PM 2.5, it's particulate matter smaller than 10 micrometers. So I think the 2.5 also gets into that umbrella, but the two separate numbers are 61.7 for the particulate matter because they did update it. So right before, I don't know how long that draft permit, the revised permit was out before. I don't know if I just missed it at first, but so we were all kind of operating originally in June when we found out about this and we were discussing it. We were operating off of their permit, which I believe was honestly just the same permit from Gila Bend that they just slapped Benson on. And then right before the public comment period opened, after I submitted my public comment the morning that it opened, and then a few hours later found out that there was another permit a revised permit that had even higher numbers. And most of them, I think it was a total increase across all pollutants of over 50 or 100 tons. Almost some of them was 10 tons each for a handful of them.
Yeah, and the question is, that's on paper. So what's the reality going to be? And again, there's not a good history here.
Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit more about the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality, if you want to, because like you said, they've never denied one of these permits.
Right.
And they don't have a good track record looking into these type of issues.
Yeah, so kind of what I've noticed across the board is there's a lot of poor public correspondence. So they have to inform the public, we're holding this meeting. They have to, post it in places where people can see it. It has to be something that people are aware about. It can't be done in hiding, but it seems like they have done that, and not necessarily in hiding, but just, poorly, kind of a little bit shady, but you can't really fully say that it's illegal how they've gone about it. And then they miss a lot of deadlines when it comes to enforcing these regulations. And then they seem to fall short, and they don't consider the public at all. So I have a few cases that I had typed out. So there's Queen Creek, Arizona. This was a missed deadline situation. So they were supposed to submit federally required water pollution cleanup plans for copper and lead. So then a lawsuit got filed because people, had been righteously upset about that. And then I guess that did result in a proposed consent decree, which is, I'm not 100% sure what that is. I think that's just what the legal action ended up granting. So that's concerning because if they're missing, especially for something like water cleanup, if they're missing their deadlines for that, and this is going right along our San Pedro, and they're not taking action until after it's being not only after the damage has been done, but they're lagging on doing the cleanup from the damage that they've allowed. And they've already actually had a lawsuit with the San Pedro River, the San Pedro Riparian National Conservation Area. In 2006, Center for Biological Diversity and I believe some other environmental groups, they sued the ADEQ for stonewalling and failure to provide promised notice and hearings related to projects affecting the river. So I think, they have done a pretty good job for our case in informing, the ADEQ has done a good job in our case for informing us of, these public hearings that we can attend and stuff, which is good. I guess it looks good on paper, but once again, it's since they haven't denied a permit of this nature before, it's kind of like just procedural, So Hayden, which is kind of still ongoing, the EPA had to step in and take action when the ADEQ once again missed deadlines to address high sulfur dioxide and lead pollution. The EPA has designated it now as a non-attainment area. They were trying to get it removed from that I guess, oversight and, take it out of that level of being a non-attainment area. But in 2017, they found that the pollution was still really bad, so they weren't able to do that.
The Hayden case got my attention as I was looking into this. There was a video on YouTube from 2011 that showed on the ground what's happening there, and it's upstream from Benson on the San Pedro River. It's at the confluence of the San Pedro and the Gila rivers. And it's basically a company town. There's a huge copper smelter there with about 900 people, and most of them are employees for this smelter, which has been there for 100 years.
Yeah.
And since the 80s, the EPA had found that there was significant pollution happening there, and people were dying of cancer. And it's obviously just people were describing plumes of poisonous smoke, all the time. And in the video, they just have representatives from ADEQ saying that everything's fine.
Yeah. And
it's a Superfund site now, which means there's extreme pollution. And then they trusted the company with cleaning that up, and they did a half-ass job.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and ADEQ is supposed to be enforcing that onto these companies, and it doesn't seem like they do. And it seems like they let it get to the level where it has to be like federally. It has to go to a federal level before anything actually even gets done. So, right,
and I guess the reason why this is relevant is you could say, well, hey, they're going through the permit process. This is going to be monitored. I don't know if you want to talk about what the monitoring would actually be, but you could say it's going to be looked at by this public agency. And I think the history is relevant because it shows that once these things are in operation, who's really watching this? And a lot of times the ADEQ has just said everything's fine when it's clearly not.
Well, that's actually happening in Patagonia, I believe, this year in February, where is I think also a Title V permit, and for the South 32 mine, and they ended up having to sue the EPA because so there's the Title V permit, and then after they review public comments, then there's a 45-day EPA period, and then after that. Or a review period, and then after that, then there's a 60-day period where you can petition the EPA to object against the permit, basically. And so in Patagonia, there's this group, I forget the name of their group, but they had to sue the EPA because now the EPA, I don't want to get too political, but they had a lot of cutbacks in March, I believe. So now the EPA is kind of, they're supposed to be the people that go in and enforce ADEQ, supposed to enforce, these companies. Yeah. And then now we don't have basically Big Brother that's going to come save us anyways. And so now the EPA is getting sued for this Patagonia situation.
Yeah. And I actually have, I lived in Detroit at the time of the Flint water crisis, and that was even under a Democratic president, and the EPA was found they had helped cover up that whole thing.
Oh, I believe it, yeah.
So they can't even really be relied on.
Yeah, no, I believe it. It's completely a bipartisan issue, It's really just whose pockets are getting lined, honestly.
Right, and people at the meeting last week, they were saying, this shouldn't be our job. This is why we have a city council. This is why we have the Department of Environmental Quality. And here you are, looking into their air permit, and we're doing the job of what our public institutions should be doing.
Right, exactly.
Which I guess speaks to larger problems, which probably won't get into. But
so
that's kind of the ADEQ situation.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have anything else to say about that, or.
So yeah, they did extend the deadline for public comment. So it feels like a win. I'm not sure if that's ever happened before. One of our gals in our group did like Google it, do a little search yesterday to try and find, and there's only like 3, I think, cases where that was, it's very rare, but it can happen. And so, I mean, that does at least, even if it's just like a procedural thing, it does at least, make us feel like we have a little bit more time to kind of get our game plan.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that the reason that they did that, and I don't know if this is the truth, but it seems like it. Our girl Kristen, she went up there and she was like, I don't have all of my public records requests that you guys are supposed to fulfill. So how am I supposed to make a fully informed public comment on something that I don't have all the information for? And I think that was kind of like an oh shit moment for ADEC.
So you never know what our impact can be by showing up to these meetings, but maybe it was. I wanted to talk about the other impacts of this besides the air, and then maybe get into the counter argument and the jobs that this would bring.
Oh yeah,
so,
my favorite.
But first, the water I think is a big issue, and then there's also just going to be a lot of traffic and noise. But I don't know.
Yeah, I want to say it's like 74 trucks a day.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think that's in and out. So.
And the picture of this thing superimposed on the town of Benson is pretty shocking. It's almost the entire size.
I do have my map in the car. I think I do. But
I'll try to put it up on the video.
Yeah. So the jobs. Which one did you want me to touch on first?
Either one.
So the traffic. Yeah, it's going to be noisy. I mean, they've already got lights out. Like I can see the lights from my farm, and I live rural. So
and they're already building this.
Yes, they are.
Just like
they have broken ground. Yes.
Yeah, just like they did in Gila.
They told us that they're allowed to, because they have the conditional use permit. They're allowed to build their office buildings, but somebody did do a flyover in his plane to check it out. It looks like a really big office. So I don't know if it's really an office. So yeah, but they have broken ground. And it's kind of hard to tell. It's not like you can go walk down to the site anymore, because Benson, they have requested that the Benson City Police are now going to be there for extra security.
Whoa.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Wow.
I think it's 24/7. They want a police presence. Yeah, so it's kind of if you're not doing anything shady, I feel like you don't have to hide from the town that you're moving into. Why are you so afraid of us? It's kind of ridiculous. But I think it's 74 big rigs a day will be going in and out of that place, and I'm not sure if that number's changed. That was like one of the first numbers that we heard, and it seems like everything's kind of evolved. The water number has evolved. We've been told so many different things, can't get like a straight answer. We've asked straight up how many, I don't know how many times, different representatives of the company, how much water they're going to use. And they're like, well, from the municipality, from the city of Benson, that they're going to use like 380 gallons a minute. But that doesn't make any sense with their cooling tower specs. It seems like there's a missing page out of the ADEQ permit that we were given. So it's kind of, I don't know. We don't have the information on the cooling towers. It's kind of hard to estimate. But there's one cooling tower that will be operating at 850,000 ACFM, which is the actual cubic feet of flow per minute, if I remember correctly. And that's not water, that's air. So the way that I understand cooling towers to work is like a swamp cooler. So you kind of need that evaporation process to happen to be able to cool things down. So if you're having 850,000 gallons of air per minute, I feel like you're going to need more than 380 gallons of water a minute. So that just doesn't add up. And then they keep trying to say they'll recycle it. Well, it's an evaporation process. So let me know how that works out for you. Like I think we all learned how evaporation works in 6th grade. So, and then the jobs that it will bring. So they have on the news, the first the first news piece that my mom was on. Glenn Pushis also spoke to, I don't know which news website it was, but the president of the company also spoke, and he was trying to like deny what my mom was saying at that time. She was just bringing her concerns about it. She wasn't saying like this is what's going to happen, because now we have a lot more information. But He was like, yeah, people think this is a smelter. It's not a smelter. Their SIC code, it says smelter. It literally says smelter in it, so he's kind of lying. That's the clean air but warm air guy. But oh God, I just got off on a tangent. I totally forgot where I was going with that.
I guess the argument for
for
why
the jobs,
this
yeah.
should be here.
Yeah, so they say it's going to bring jobs to Benson, but in that interview, I guess that he did with that reporter, he also said it's going to be almost identical, just a little bit different on the building aspect to their facility in Mexico, which is I believe it's robotic. So unless you're a robot or a cyborg, I guess, or like an engineer or a technician of some sort, which I'm not saying that the people of Benson are stupid and they can't go, do those things and become engineers, but it's just not something that's going to like immediately help Benson. Like everybody keeps saying that it is, because you're going to have to do all these extra certifications to be able to operate that equipment. It's not like it's just, it's not like the olden days when, a coal mine would come to town and then the whole family's getting fed. It's everything's robotic nowadays. It's literally, it's corporation, it's exactly what you think of when you think of like the big evil corporate giant. It's not providing, it's not feeding your family anymore. It's robots. It's robots that are going to be doing that. So yeah, they've already brought in, I think 11 people. I don't know if they have more now, but they keep saying they're going to bring jobs, but so far everybody that they have employed has been from out of state or out of Benson. So it's not like it's providing jobs for our immediate community.
And this should be treated with skepticism. The hard number that I saw was, I think, 90 jobs. And the salaries, I heard anywhere between $80,000 to $90,000.
I think they've already filled those.
Okay.
I don't know. They say, like that's the higher paying positions, but I believe that they've already filled the higher paying positions. From what I understand, now they have like janitor open,
gotcha.
Custodian, that kind of thing.
And I say those should be treated with skepticism because, again, I don't have a specific example to pull up, but a lot of times these job numbers don't end up being what's promised at the outset of these projects. And you made a post on Instagram showing the history of other towns that basically sacrifice the environment for what could be a short-term economic bump. Yeah.
A lot of the plants that I highlighted, they had been operating for about 50 years. So I mean, I guess it got the town going, but and I kind of understand like where those people were coming from back then. We know a lot more now, and we have I think we have the ability to do things differently now. We don't have to, have the same level of pollution, and it's for less jobs. Those plants were employing, around 1,000 people, 500 people for each plant. And yes, they ended in terrible pollution and detriment to their ecosystem, but at least it was 1,000 people. And so now you're asking, these people are asking us to do the same thing for 90 jobs. Yeah. And so when a company is coming in and they're saying, that they're going to use the 70% of the amount of water that Benson uses per year. So essentially it's its own city level of water that they're going to be using. All of these harmful toxins that are going to be going into the ecosystem, going into the air, going into our bodies. I just don't find anything within myself that can justify any of that with saying that, 90 jobs. Like, it's BS. I don't care if it was 200 jobs. It's still not enough, that's my least favorite argument. And people say that it's just, I have been called multiple times a leftist eco nut job, which I don't really care. Like, if the shoe fits, I guess, if that's what you think of me. But at the same time, it's like there's so many of us who, I'm out there with my cows, I'm out there with my horses, and I didn't want to have to think about any of this. I'm being forced to have to think about all of this. And so it's not like I made it my life mission to like come against corporations, but the way that they're kind of treating us throughout this process, it's starting to become my life mission. So
yeah. And they're going to try to call you whatever name they think will fit. The water, you mentioned it could use 70% of what Benson is currently using today. Can you tell us about what that means in the broader context of Benson? Because we're in southern Arizona, and we're already having we're sitting here within earshot of my well just went dry a few months ago
Wow.
because of corporate pumping. So can you tell us what that would mean to Benson, and maybe talk about this lawsuit that Aluminum
Yeah.
Dynamics was named in because of this?
Yeah, so I think technically they're not considered to be named in the lawsuit. They're just
Okay.
mentioned
Okay.
because they're not going to be facing legal action. As a result, the only thing that could happen, I think, for them would be, they can't do the plant here, which would be great. But it's the Center for Biological Diversity, the San Pedro 100, and then Robin Silver, and he's the founder of CBD. They filed a lawsuit against the city of Benson, or I'm sorry, against the Arizona Department of Water Resources. So there was basically a plan set in place, and it's supposed to be reviewed every 15 years. And so 17 years ago was when this plan was set in place. And it's supposed to ensure that Benson has, I believe, 13,000 acre feet of water per year for 100 years. And so it hasn't been reviewed. So they haven't looked into it. And Benson is not only promising water to this plant, but they're also promising water to this development project, the villages at Vigneto. And I want to say it's like 28,000 homes. It's like an insane amount of homes. I could be getting the numbers wrong. I didn't write those numbers down, but how are you going to promise? We don't have that much water, and we're not on an AMA right now, which I know there's kind of conflicted opinions. I know there's a lot of ranchers that, have conflict when that does come up. And then but the people of Benson, we don't have like the types of ranches that people kind of think of when they think of those water sucking corporations. Like there are, what was it? Was it a dairy in Wilcox?
Yeah, the Riverview Dairy has like hundreds of thousands of cows.
Yeah. And there's something to be said about like the treatment of those animals as well. But it's, like we have 13 cows and, maybe even I think 200 cows is really not a lot in comparison to like a corporation like that. And so we just want to be able to provide food for our family, And so, that they never reviewed their water designation plan. And so now they're getting sued for that. So that water designation plan maybe will be revised. I think that the hope was that this will push the ADWR to review that designation, but potentially there's potential for it to get revoked as well, and that would definitely stop or at least put a big hold on building this facility.
Yeah, and maybe now is a good time to, again, touching on this water issue. This is kind of what got my attention in this, because we are having this problem out here with the groundwater in Wilcox, and there was this other issue in Tucson that was happening recently. This Project Blue data center was rejected. I don't know if you would just want to talk briefly about that and how that group has interacted with you.
Yeah, those people have been so sweet, and so like a lot of them have reached out. Mainly it's like at No Desert Data Center, and I believe, I'm not sure, I didn't get to meet the guy that spoke, but I think he might be the person that runs that Instagram, but he reached out to me, and he was like, oh my God, like this is terrible, like so empathetic, and it just felt so good to like have somebody else like that's see from the outside, because right now we're battling so many, even people in Benson that are like, the jobs that'll be good for the community, or these people are crazy. Just sort of have somebody else come in, and somebody who had just, they had their own little victory as well. I know their fight's not over for sure, but to come in and be like, okay, we'll help you. Like we've got a platform, Tucson, it's easier to network there. I think there's a lot more people on social media. And so they've been a really great help in helping, get more people to be aware of this. We did have like a group. Well, I mean, was that how you ended up going to the ADAC meeting? Were you with those people, or you just know them?
Those are my friends, and
okay.
They live in Tucson, so they were involved with that.
Okay, yeah.
Shout out to Peter and Cheyenne.
Yeah, and so it was really awesome to see, people. There was another fellow that came. I don't think he was with.
Yeah, I don't know him.
With there was another guy as well before, but he wasn't the guy that runs the Instagram, but he also came. So there was just like a handful of people that came from Tucson and support. I know there's another girl that had reached out on TikTok to me and let me know that she was, she found out about it because of the no desert data center people. So they've just really been pushing, they're dealing with their own fight. And I felt bad because I was like, oh my God, like this is so terrible. I don't have time to like, go to Tucson and like try and help them with their fight. But it's been, very awesome to see how people are taking their power back, for their communities. And so I think that's something that, a lot of us in Benson have been very encouraged by, to see, that they got to go to council, and so it's like, okay, we can do this, the people's voices do matter, right. Even if it just feels like, you're just reposting stuff online or, informing people about meetings. Like, I think in the long run, it does really make a big difference.
Yeah. And I mean, we have to take on the issues that are in your backyard, but at the same time, these are all connected, and we should support each other in whatever way we can. And just real briefly, the Project Blue thing was a proposed data center in Tucson, which was kept under a non-disclosure agreement for a few years, and it was made public, I think in June this year. And within 7 weeks, there was enough public outcry that the city council unanimously voted it down. And it turned out the end user was going to be Amazon Web Services, which that was kept secret. It was a local news outlet that finally revealed that. And I was surprised by how fast I've personally feel the public outcry really swayed that and made that rejection happen. And
absolutely,
somebody called it the biggest national rejection of a data center so far. And a lot of it was because of this water use. They were going to be using a lot of water, and this is a nonpartisan issue. We only have so much water,
right,
and we're really running out. The San Pedro River is basically going dry because of the groundwater pumping in the area. So I think that's a pretty good look at the issue. What if anything, have we left out so far that you want to talk about?
Gosh, I don't know. I could drone for days. I have my little Dan Arnold admits to bringing them to Benson. I'm like the number one like Dan Arnold hater. Who
is Dan?
I just wanted to like shade him. I'll probably get in trouble for that later. But so he actually spoke at one of the, I think it was like it wasn't a planning zoning. It was a city count. No, it was planning and zoning meeting. I don't know. He was one of the people that he spoke in support at their original November meeting. And then he was also there at another city council meeting here in July, I think. Either July or the end of June, could be wrong. But he came up there and he's like talking about his affiliation with the Chiricahua Apache Nation. And I just thought it was funny because he's getting up here giving all his credentials of being, he's Chiricahua Apache Council. And then literally like 2 days later, the Chiricahua Apache Nation came out and they're like, actually, we don't know this man. But so that's like, I thought that was pretty funny. Yeah. But yeah, he owns the golf course, which is no longer in operation. That's going to be next to the facility. He's a guy that he brought them to Gila Bend. He brought them here. Also, I think it's really funny how Benson, when they put out their council minutes and stuff, they put things like, Miss Seabloom, who's my mom, is a non-resident of Benson. We have a Benson address, but we're not within city limits because we're rural. Okay. And then they put Dan Arnold, a Cochise County native. And this man lives in Vail, according to what he said to my mom. So, and he put his golf course address for when he signed up for that council speaking. So it's just kind of shady, the links that people are going to. And it's like, it's surprising and not surprising simultaneously because it's like clearly he knew that people, he knew it was going to say, his address or whatever when he was speaking. And he wants people in Benson to feel like he's a person in Benson that has a say in this, but he doesn't live there. And so, but then at the same time, they're going and they're attacking. I mean, even last night, this has happened multiple times where people try to say where my mom lives online. And I live there too. And I can fight. So don't try to come out. Yeah. But they keep trying to kind of sort of pseudo dox people, and they're like, oh, she doesn't live in city limits, but then it's like this guy that's like a big old spokesperson for them, he doesn't even live not only outside of city limits, but he doesn't even he lives in Vail. So according to what he said in a meeting that he had with my mom.
Well, like they're gonna try to
Yeah,
get
just
this
a
thing.
lot of dirty,
Yeah.
undercut stuff.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're getting a firsthand experience of all that, which has
Yeah.
probably been eye
Oh
opening.
yeah, it has been.
Um, can we talk about what City Council has had to say about this? Because they're basically saying everything was legal. They got the height variance. That was not even that was a planning and zoning thing. The
Yeah.
City Council didn't even have a vote on it. So they're basically just like,
Yeah.
there's really nothing we could have done, and
There,
there's nothing that they can do.
they could have done something, in my opinion. They could have. Their planning and zoning commission, even though it's not an elected position to hold, they know better. They know that that's something that should have been brought before council. Because I mean, they brought the gas station sign before council, and so it's shady. In the minutes as well, the original November meeting, it says that, I don't remember which chairman said it, but it was somebody had brought it to, they asked a question to another council or commission member, and they said, can this project be brought before council? And so it's like, if that's an admittance,
Yeah.
even if they're not outright saying we're going to, this needs to be, they asked, so they know exactly what they should have done. So I think also council or whoever's in charge of the P&Z commission really should, if they haven't set them straight now, they definitely need to, because they should know better. They should know not to just pass projects like this, whether or not to say if they have some sort of involvement is hard to say. It kind of feels like some of this doesn't add up as far as like who's endorsing it. It's like, why are you endorsing it so hard and not caring about the constituents of your town? Just leaves a very big question. I don't want to say anything like too outright accusatory, but yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's very shady. And we do have one council member who has spoken out. Her name is Cindy Tapia, and she has been, asking questions, which is, what we are super appreciative for her using her position to do so. I wish this was something that had been spoken out against prior. I'm not sure if there's any other council members that care, but it does seem like she cares. It does seem like she is limited on what she can do alone, and I'm sure that she's probably also worried about, dealing with this Gila Bend situation. And I think there's a lot of people that are operating in that fear, and not necessarily, well, no, I think there's a lot of people operating in that fear, and they're kind of refusing to do the right thing out of fear of the repercussions from ADI.
Yeah, and there could be real financial consequences. It sounds like Gila Bend could have a hard time dealing with this lawsuit, which is a real threat. But at the end of the day, we kind of have to stand up for ourselves.
And I do believe with that lawsuit, it doesn't look like they really have ground to stand on. Like, what are they suing? They're not really suing. What are they going to sue for? They were breaking ground before they had their rezoning request fulfilled. So they shouldn't have been doing that. I feel like that's like going to be pretty blatant to any judge, but I do know that they have the power to drag it out as long as, as they have the money. It's not $50 million is kind of like a nothing to the company like that. So I don't think it's necessarily because they're trying to recoup what they lost. I think it's just sort of a slap in the face and a warning to Benson or wherever else they might bring.
Just try to make it painful and intimidate other people.
Exactly.
Potentially. Well, is that the issue, or I'll give you the last word if there's something else. I'll give myself the second to last word. I would say this really comes down to, when I went to that meeting, every person who spoke was in opposition to this. And that's my sense that the subsequent city council meetings after people found out about it, the overwhelming comments of people who live in Benson have been opposed to this. And to me, this issue comes down to whether regular people are going to control what happens in our towns, or are these corporations going to get their way? So I really congratulate you, and I admire, and it's inspiring what you and your mom have done. You've basically given up your normal lives to get involved with this issue, and I think it's a model for how involved we really need to be going forward, because otherwise these things are just going to happen and no one's even going to know.
Yeah, I think one way to look at it is like, yeah, everything has changed and we've given up our normal lives, but that's what we're protecting. Either way, that's what we're going to give up. And so I'd rather go out fighting.
Yeah.
I don't want to give up my normal life and just roll over and take it and have to, move, because I wouldn't want to feed my family food that's got hydrogen chloride and all the other stuff in it. But yeah, thank you. I'm glad to be getting some more, attention on this, and I hope more people can kind of join and support.
Yeah, because if this can happen in Benson, this kind of thing can happen anywhere. So we need to start standing up against this. How can people get involved or find you?
So on Facebook, my mom's Facebook page, it's more of a discussion group. It's not necessarily affiliated with our nonprofit. It's just kind of to get involved in the conversation. There's a lot of information posted. Kristen has done a really awesome job of like hunting down a lot of documents and doing public records requests and stuff. So if you want to read through any of those, they're posted in our group. Pretty much everything that we have as far as like documents is in there in the files tab. It's called No Benson Aluminum Plant. And then I also, I've been using my personal TikTok just because I didn't think to make a separate TikTok for it. And I kind of do some coverage and try to do updates and stuff. And I post more of the informational stuff, like infographics on my Instagram. So the TikTok is at Nice Girlfriend, and friend is spelled FRND with no vowels. And then on Instagram, it's at Health Over Wealth Benson.
And I'll put links to all that in the description of this episode.
Yeah. Oh, I also have in my Instagram bio a link to submit a public comment, and it's still active.
Perfect. Yeah. What, if any, action items can people take right now?
I would say submit a public comment. ADAC really wants us to try and keep those technical and non-emotional. However, they have to respond to all of them. So even I do have a template up on my page. I do have the updated permit numbers up on, pollution numbers up on my page. If you would like to reference those. And so they want it to be very based around their public comment to be very based around the solely the permit. So unfortunately, it's not the water issue. I could talk like a million years about
air
water.
Quality, the air permit.
Yeah, the air permit. So they don't really care about like the water usage or anything, just the pollutants and the cold hard facts on that. And then we will be launching. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that actually. Yeah, we'll be launching fundraising soon. So once I figure out how to put that on our website, we'll have options to donate. And then there's also a volunteer form you can fill out on our website, which is protectbensonaz.org. And so we're looking for people that can maybe host some events, or if you have like a venue or a space where we can gather. We're looking for people to maybe do some door knocking in the future, once it cools down a little bit, and just different, I do a lot of info booths. It'd be really awesome if we could get some more people on board with doing info booths, because those are kind of exhausting. So yeah, just kind of generic volunteering and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who want to help out with this. So, well, Ashlyn, thank you so much for coming on here. It's so awesome to have you here, and you're right in the middle of this fight that we really need to start taking on if we want to have a prosperous future and planet.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. It's cool to see. It's cool to see everyone coming together. It's a heartwarming thing during a bittersweet time.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, and that's it for this episode, and I'll be talking to you later.
Sweet. Thank you.